Good morning. There is now two bullying instances, and a person who's making her straight to fight bullying after a death that happened over a year, almost that happened a year ago. Let's start with this one that happened just 1 hour ago. This mother says that the senior was once to immerse her after a bullying incident that happened just over a year ago. The pictures you're about to see are horrible.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Keith Garvin.
Good evening. I'm Daniela Guzman. Well, that student suffered a concussion, and as KPRC2's Devin Clark reports, her medical bills are adding up.
The girl family members say that Conroe ISD can start by paying the more than $6,000 in medical expenses caused by the bully, mainly because they told school officials about the issue over and over again, but it persisted.
It's been very hard. She's been harassing me since the middle of last year in chemistry class.
This 19-year-old Woodlands High School graduating senior, who asked not to be identified, says constant bullying from a 17-year-old junior has escalated to death threats from the girl and her friends.
Threatened to slice my mom's throat open. They threatened to come to my house and shoot at my family.
On Friday, she says despite 2 stay-away orders against the bully from the school, the violent behavior reached its peak.
She ended up finding me passing periods from first to second on the main stairs. And that's when she attacked me in front of the officer and the AP.
The attack, she says, was relentless.
She started with punches and was kicking. She kicked me in the back of the head. She took my head and smashed it against the stairs, which is why I have a mild concussion.
Now she says a black eye, visible cuts, bruises, and clumps of pulled out hair remind her of those moments, and that she's been advised to get checked out by a neurosurgeon. Her mother says she warned school officials multiple times about the escalating behavior.
They said they would escort her from class to class. It lasted a week. And then all of a sudden they didn't have the resources anymore to do that. They did give her a parking space in the teacher's parking lot.
A statement from Conroe ISD reads, quote, Conroe ISD takes all allegations of bullying seriously. However, due to student privacy laws, we cannot comment on student disciplinary measures. With regard to our anti-bullying measures, extensive information pertaining to our processes can be viewed on our website, end quote. The girl you heard from says she will be finishing out the last 5 weeks of her high school career doing homeschooling. She does hope that Conroe ISD will take steps in the future to prevent this from happening again. As for that alleged bully, she does face a state felony, according to the mother and daughter you heard from, for assaulting the officer during that fight. Reporting in the Woodlands, Devin Clark, KPRC 2 News.
Now let's go to this next story.
Family members say he complained he was being bullied. The county school district is investigating after one of their students took his own life. Family members say he complained he was being bullied. They say the school did not help him when he reached out. WDHN's Robert Smith Jr. now with a story you'll see only on WDHN.
School body mourning the loss of another student, this one making the second student death in about a month span. However, for this one, family of the victim say this one could have been more preventable.
The bullying needs to stop. It's got to stop for these kids' sake.
Kelly Fulford is looking for justice for her nephew, Javier Sanchez, who recently took his own life after he experienced bullying at Sampson High School, and she says he didn't get the proper help.
They need to be heard when they're being bullied.
Fulford says her nephew had been dealing with the bullying for at least a year. He was previously dealing with family-related issues at home, and then when he got to school, it was hard to escape it, as his friends and family say he was verbally abused by some students.
Most of it was homophobic things, because he was openly gay about himself.
Superintendent Becky Birdsong says, unfortunately, bullying takes place in every school, and her schools have a zero-tolerance policy, as stated in their handbook, along with the consequences. Right now, she's investigating the rumors by talking to students and administrators about what's going on in the schools and if there needs to be changes. She says she hasn't heard if Sanchez reached out for help or not.
But at this point, I don't have any knowledge of that or any evidence of that. But if that's something we find to be true, we'll definitely deal with it.
She says in the meantime, the schools have licensed professional counselors ready to listen to students, although not every student will reach out. In order to prevent a tragedy where bullying played a factor, she's working with schools to ensure each student has a mentor they can go to discuss problems in a safe space. Monday night, around 50 students and staff gathered around the fountain for a balloon release and candlelight vigil to remember Javier.
With the recent death of Javier Sanchez, Sampson schools will be dismissing at 1 p.m. on Tuesday to give students and staff a chance to pay their respects to the family of Javier Sanchez. Reporting, Robert Smith, WDHN News for the Wiregrass.
Wow. Sure. All right. Let's first go to this story right here. I'm glad that common sense is being raised to arrest the bully for assault with a police officer, but I'm surprised to establish that it's ended for about a week for the escorting. No, the escort needs to go on. You can't just be ending the weeks going, yeah, you're okay. That person's gonna be attacked. The victim is still gonna be attacked. Try to understand. If the student's being bullied, you gotta do your best. As for the second story, there ain't no common sense to this one. Still ahead, Rio's Remo makes strides to fight bullying after a suicide death that happened of a student. Coming up next, this person says he's been digging up fossils since he was a kid. It's all just a bunch of fossil bones. But what's really going on? The story of a dinosaur named Sue. Stay with us. This may be the custody battle of the century. No, not about kids and living with mom and dad. Scientists, Indians, U.S. government years ago were all trying to lay claim to a bunch of old bones. Well, not just any old bones. These bones happen to be over 65 million years old. And the mystery of it all was one man you're about to meet. For him, it was the find of a lifetime. Now he can wind up in jail. This morning, the story of one dinosaur that he's been trying to dig up. The story of a dinosaur named Sue. Here's Sylvia Chase.
I started collecting fossils when I was 4 years old. I cannot envision doing something else.
Meet Pete Larson, a grown-up with a job any kid would envy. He's a dinosaur hunter. And here's the movie version of the dinosaur of Pete Larson's dreams. Tyrannosaurus Rex, a fearsome meat-eater more than 3 stories high, who ruled the earth millions of years ago. Still a creature of mystery. Only 9 skeletons had been found so far. Somewhere out here, though, there was a 10th T-Rex, and finding it would be the crowning achievement for any dinosaur hunter. Larson's native South Dakota is dinosaur country, laced with fossils of North America's prehistoric creatures.
Every time you turn over a rock, you might find something that no one else has ever seen before.
Then, one hot August day in 1990.
I believe that the tail's going that way and the skull is going this way. But we're just going to have to dig it up and see.
Larson had found T-Rex number 12, and his crew made a home video of the excavation.
This is one of his front teeth.
They named the dinosaur Sue, after paleontologist Sue Hendrickson, who led them to the bones.
The skull is right here, lying more or less right side up. That's where the eye would be, and the little cheekbone, the lower jaw.
The dinosaur named Sue had been buried in that hill over there for 65 million years. It's in a remote corner of a ranch in central South Dakota. She may be the greatest find in the history of dinosaur hunting, the biggest, the most complete, and the most valuable. And so it was headline news, and Pete Larson was on top of the world.
Because of the discovery of this one skeleton, we're going to open a new chapter in the book of dinosaurs.
Sue is the finest Tyrannosaurus rex ever found.
Leading dinosaur experts like Dr. Bob Bacher confirmed the importance of Larson's find.
Sue is giving us an insight into how this last dynasty of dinosaurs, there were many ages of dinosaurs, and the very last was ruled by Tyrannosaurus rex. And we want to know about that ruler. Why did it rule? How did it die?
Larson says Sue died at about 100 years of age, and he thinks he knows how, because he found the tooth of another T-Rex in Sue's facial bones.
She probably died as a result of a bite from another Tyrannosaurus rex. The whole left side of her face seems to be just torn away.
But the most important thing about Sue is that 90% of her was recovered. She's more complete than any of the existing T-Rex skeletons.
We have the first complete tail. For the first time, we know how many vertebrae Tyrannosaurus had in their tail. We have the first complete shoulder blade. We have the first complete arm.
And the first virtually complete skull, all 5 feet of it. And for the first time, stomach contents. A duck-billed dinosaur believed to have been Sue's last supper.
The amount of knowledge that we can obtain from this specimen is just staggering.
Larson's company is expert at the incredibly delicate task of separating fossils from the rock encasing them. With customers like Harvard, the Sorbonne, and the Smithsonian, Larson's Black Hills Institute is located in tiny Hill City, South Dakota, population 600. But its reputation is worldwide.
Do you make a lot of money at it?
No, I don't make a lot of money.
Yet even after carting off perhaps the most valuable T-Rex in the world, Larson announced it would go into a non-profit museum in Hill City, the kind of place he'd had in mind since finding his first fossil. So Sue was not for sale.
Sue is a premier piece. Why would we sell the best piece? The piece that's going to bring thousands and thousands of people to visit that museum.
That was great news in Hill City, a tourist town, where even with a nightly Western gunfight and an 1890 train, the average income stays at $3,000 below the poverty line. The hope was the Dinosaur Museum would stop vacationers who roll through town on their way to Mount Rushmore.
We were dreaming high and big at that time.
Hill City Mayor Drew Vitter.
Can you imagine little bitty old Hill City going to national recognition in a year or two's time? Where people said, have you been to Hill City? Where they didn't even know it existed before.
But the dream of Hill City and Pete Larson turned into a nightmare on the morning of May 14th.
One of our workers came over and said, the whole place is crawling with FBI. And I said, my mouth dropped open, I just didn't want to say it.
Armed federal agents had shown up to seize the bones of the dinosaurs, saying they'd been stolen. What was going on? Well, it turns out Sue is worth as much as $20 million, and when word got around, you can call it envy or just plain greed. But suddenly, people started claiming Sue was theirs. Who owns Sue?
If the laws of the land mean anything, I own it.
Who owns Sue?
We believe we do, the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe.
Who owns Sue?
The public owns Sue.
Who owns Sue?
The Black Hills Museum of Natural History Foundation.
Larson says he owns Sue because when he found her on the 35,000-acre ranch of Morris Williams, he paid Williams $5,000, top value for a fossil still in the ground. The Williamses say the sale doesn't matter, and they own Sue because they're Indians. And Sue was removed from a section of the Williams Ranch, which is protected by a trust agreement with the U.S. government.
Well, I told him more than once that he should clear with the federal government, and he knew that he should. He chose not to.
And now that they know what Sue's worth, the Williamses want their cut of that $20 million. Isn't it the money?
It's always the money.
It's always the money. That's what it's about.
$20 million would also mean a lot to the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe. The average income here, $7,000 a year. The unemployment rate, 86%. For Indians, looting of artifacts from reservations, including fossils, is a long, seething issue. Tribal Chairman Greg Borland contends that though Sue was taken from the privately held Williams Ranch, the ranch lies within the reservation boundaries.
All of this land has restrictions to it, and you cannot just say, go ahead, dig up a big old dinosaur Here's $5,000. I'm out of here.
At one point, the tribe proposed a dinosaur partnership to Pete Larson, but negotiations broke down when Larson insisted he had to be sole owner.
I gave my hand of friendship to Mr. Larson, the Institute. They slapped it away. That's a hand that I will think twice before I extend it again.
I think that if there was a wrong done by us, it was by perhaps not keeping in better touch with the tribe.
At the tribe's urging, the U.S. government stepped into the fray. And if things weren't complicated enough, U.S. Attorney Kevin Schieffer declared, quote, "The fossil is the property of the United States, period."
It is a public treasure. It is a national treasure.
And so, calling the bones criminal evidence, Schieffer ordered the federal agents to crate them up and take them away. Sue's bones are now locked in a steel box at the South Dakota School of Mines.
I felt like we were being raped. These people were here stealing from us. These are the people who are supposed to protect us. These are the police who are supposed to keep things like this from happening. And here they were perpetrating this crime.
It's 7:40, taking the Black Hills by storm, just like the FBI did. Here's Hill City Sue on KKLS. Hill City Sue. Hill City Sue. The government stepped in. Oh, gee, what else is new?
Throughout the area, protesters, angered by the loss of big bucks that Sue represented, demanded the dinosaur be returned to Larson.
What right does the government have? The fossil would have never been found without us. It would have never been excavated without us. It would have never been prepared without us. It'd be sitting in the ground and washing away year by year until she rots away.
The feds didn't see it that way. So though Larson had paid $5,000 for Sue and spent $100,000 to restore her, the government was now saying Larson stole Sue and other fossils from federal land. U.S. Attorney Schieffer says policy prevents him from talking about Larson's case, but he indicates it involves more than just the excavation of Sue.
If you're going on federal land and stealing federal property, and if you're going on Indian land and stealing Indian property, that's reprehensible, and that's going to be prosecuted.
But who owns what out here? Some areas are a patchwork of Indian land, private land, federal land.
They're looking for the chance that I was in a pasture with which I had permission to go on and perhaps went across an invisible boundary and picked up something from somebody's property that I didn't have permission for.
In the case of Sue, Larson invited scientists from around the country to come look, which is not something a thief would likely do.
If you and I stole Rembrandt, we sure wouldn't tell the public we had it. Come on in and see what I stole. Examine it. See if it's authentic. We would hide it.
But sources tell Primetime Larson will be indicted on major felony charges. He's already gone into debt in his fight with the government.
Could you be driven out of business because of this? Oh, absolutely. The government, in cases like this, wins their war through attrition. It would take and use up every last one of our resources. And it's a bottomless pit there with the government. They're using our money to fight us too. They're using tax money to do this.
Are you willing to tell the U.S. taxpayers what you've spent so far?
I am staying within my budget.
Meanwhile, the dinosaur named Sue is staying in the lockup, still in that steel box, where Larson says she could turn to dust.
Sue is a living thing, and she needs to breathe. Her bones need to breathe in order to not decompose. They've taken the most fantastic fossil in the world, and they put her into boxes where she's being destroyed.
Where she's being destroyed. Common sense alert. This is the story people acting like kids. I own this! I own this! No, I own this! No, I own that! No, I own this! No, I own that! It's like a little tug of war. Until we can figure out, we're taking it. Something like that. Don't act like kids. So who really owns it? The person who found it. I believe it was the fossil hunter himself. That's who I believe. That's who I believe. Okay. Coming up next, a story about fraud. You're about to see people who say they can get rich quick, but hidden cameras show that just doesn't happen. Stay with us. Now a story about how to get rich quick. It involves people who can buy yachts and sell tapes. But what people found were false promises and broken dreams. This morning, you will see hidden camera footage of crowds accepting the promise to get rich quick by selling tapes and products. Is it a scheme or something gone right? Here's Chris Hansen.
Out of the darkness of a crowded coliseum, a rally cry. Thousands of true believers gathered in celebration at arenas like this across the country, all convinced they found the true path to success, wealth beyond their wildest dreams.
This is the best opportunity that exists in the world. Period. 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 It's not second. It's not third. It's number one.
The promises are golden.
You can have a wonderful life, make millions and millions and millions of dollars, but it must start with a dream.
And dream they do. Of luxury homes, fancy cars, yachts, and private planes. So who are all these people? And what are they so worked up about? The people on stage are distributors for a company called Quickstar, which says it's had $3 billion in sales since 1999. They say the company's special formula for success has made them rich. But their main purpose here is to tell all these thousands of other distributors that they can do it too. All they have to do is sell everything from the company's own line of vitamins and cosmetics to name brand appliances and electronics. For that, they'll get a percentage of the sales. And if they recruit a ton of other people to do the same, they'll get a percentage of the orders placed by everyone they recruit. The more people they recruit, the richer they can get. And richer and richer and richer.
You can do it. So why not go for it?
Sound too good to be true? We thought it did. In fact, it sounded a lot like another company that made news several years back, Amway. A hugely successful business that came under government scrutiny was fined in order to stop making unrealistic promises about income to its distributors. To find out what Quickstar was up to, we took our hidden cameras to a recruitment meeting in New Jersey. Hundreds held around the country each week, and where hundreds of thousands of Quickstar faithful get their start. And the first thing we hear is how easy it is to make it in Quickstar.
If you're somewhat serious, if you invest in to 15 hours in your business, this is your own business, you could generate the next 12 to 18 months.
I'm sorry, how much? $250,000. You're making more than 250, $250,000?
The recruiter, Greg Fredericks, sure gets our attention. Says he himself has made it big on the Quickstar plan.
I don't know about nothing. You know, and today, I'm looking at $1 million home, $1,000 Rolex just for kicks. And I just got a brand new navigator sitting out front paying for cash. So things are good.
And he says those kinds of riches are ours for the taking. And on top of getting rich, we'd also be able to make our own hours and spend more time with our family. So at another meeting, after paying $200 for a starter kit, we sign up and are officially introduced to the Fredericks team. First step, think positive.
So I don't put anything into my head that's going to cause me to be thinking outside my positive role.
That means no TV, no reading newspapers. Second step, and perhaps the most important, we're told to buy motivational books and tapes from top Quickstar distributors.
Reading, I would recommend you start reading, do 15 minutes to about a half hour a day.
Those books and tapes are going to cost us, but one of Frederick's associates says they hold the key to our success. But it's not just buying the books and tapes, which can go for about $60 a month. We're also urged to spend money on seminars for about another $50 a month. And within days of becoming Quickstar distributors, we're told of one big event we shouldn't miss. A few $100s later, we find ourselves on a bus ride, a 14-hour bus ride from New Jersey to South Carolina, something called Spring Leadership Weekend. To Fredericks and others, it's not just a business trip, it's a pilgrimage.
Well, we asked you for a spirit of openness so that we might go down to Greenville, South Carolina, Lord, that we might be changed. In Jesus' mighty name, we say amen. Let's have a great weekend.
At the arena in South Carolina, people have been sleeping outside like teenagers at a rock concert. When we arrive the next day, it's not long before the crowd swells, part of a fevered rush to get inside. 15,000 at the arena as we thrill to a carefully choreographed show that promises money and everything that comes with it. We're urged by those successful Quickstar distributors on stage to dream big like they do.
We've got 4 homes and 32 cars, and we got all that stuff. What are we doing now? And we're just saying, let's buy a country.
The excitement builds with each success story. This man says he once ran a car wash. His vision of financial freedom moves the crowd to a chant we hear over and over again. The speakers are treated like superstars, all living testaments to what happens when you follow the Quickstar plan. But there's one who's become an icon. If Quickstar is a religion, this man is its pope. His name is Bill Britt, and legend has it he's worth millions, all because of Quickstar.
I got to admit this was not a reason. Good reason. First was money. The second reason I got in was for money. That's all.
So devoted are the followers, many in the crowd with us become sleep deprived, afraid to miss out on advice that will make them millionaires. Such devotion is hard to fathom. But we see just how far it goes on the last night of the weekend, when a single candle is lit. Soon the dark arena becomes a tabernacle, a shrine to the Quickstar dream. For some, a solemn and tearful promise to their leader. But are the leaders keeping their promises to the faithful? What the thousands lighting candles in this arena don't realize is that 99.9% of them will not only never get rich from Quickstar, they won't even come close.
In your opinion, what is it? I would use the word scam.
But is it really a scam when people are dreaming big or whatever they want? Coming up next, we're going to find out whether it's a scam, and you'll also meet someone who ceremoniously shot his own alarm clock. No, really, he really shot his own alarm clock. You will also hear from one person who we met, who You saw earlier saying you can get rich quick making about $250,000. But he's telling the truth. You will hear his side of the story when Chris Hansen's investigation into Quickstar Amway continues. Stay with us. You've heard about the company Quickstar saying you can get rich quick and dream big, from cars to houses. But is it really all you can dream or just a big scam? Now you're about to hear from people who say it's just a scam. Once again, here's Chris Hansen.
The freedom to flush that stinking job. That's the promise. And that's exactly what Eric Scheibler did.
I thought if I could create a six-figure income and spend time with my family, I'd do anything for that.
Scheibler, at the time a federal auditor, had heard the stories and seen the videos.
You know, we get up in the morning as we wish. Don't get up to the alarm clock very often. It's something we sort of gave up when we got rid of the job.
Scheibler signed up, and after a few years working part-time in the business, ceremoniously shot his own alarm clock. He triumphantly quit his day job, and with a limo waiting, it was party time. He walked into the welcoming arms of his family and friends in the business. Goodbye, boss. Hello, family.
That's right. Exactly. Seemed to be the American dream.
What does that cost?
Probably about $120.
But instead of a life of leisure and more time with his family, he says he worked day and night, buying the tapes, attending the rallies. Still, he made nowhere near the six-figure salary he thought he would. In fact, in his best year, he made $34,000. And even that didn't last. What do you have today?
We're destitute, financially. We'll change that, but financially we have nothing as a specific result of this.
We heard it again and again. People who worked the Quickstar plan only to suffer in the end.
It's hurt us. It's hurt a lot of people.
Vicky and Lindy Mack say they not only didn't make money, they lost more than $35,000 over a 5-year period, much of it on books, tapes, and traveling to rallies.
That, by the way, is like a year at Harvard.
No kidding. I know that. We know that.
So why, despite the promises, did the Macks and thousands of others end up on the losing end of the Quickstar dream? This man says it's because it's based on a lie, and he should know. His name is Bo Short, and for a time he was selling the dream himself as one of Quickstar's brightest stars.
I will tell you this, I do not want you to leave excited. I want you to leave committed.
But he says he began to realize he was part of a mass deception. You see these videos of these attractive couples driving Porsches and Ferraris, panoramic shots of the palatial mansion. Right? Is that actually achievable by selling Quickstar products?
Based on my experiences, no.
How are these people getting all this stuff then?
There is another business.
And it's a business that is completely separate from Quickstar. A hidden business that most recruits don't realize exists. Short says many of those high-level distributors singing the praises of Quickstar on stage are actually making most of their money by selling motivational books, tapes, and seminars. Not Quickstar's cosmetics, soaps, and electronics. This was the dirty little secret.
That's exactly what it was. Absolutely.
That's not what you hear at the convention.
No, and that's not what you're told in somebody's living room when you see it either.
In fact, about 20 high-level distributors are part of an exclusive club, one that those hundreds of thousands of other distributors don't get to join. For years, only a privileged few, including Bill Britt, have run hugely profitable businesses, selling all those books, tapes, and seminars, things the rank-and-file distributors can't sell themselves, but are told over and over again they need to buy in order to succeed.
Anything you need to become successful, you have at your disposal. All you have to be willing to do for a nominal fee is to start purchasing the materials that will help you build your business.
Why are the recruits told to listen to the tapes and read the books over and over and over again?
Because it creates a dependency and it creates a habit. that keeps you bound to that business.
Vicky Mack knows all about that. Even though she's a medical doctor, a pediatrician with a thriving practice, she found herself slaving away in the pursuit of new Quickstar recruits. After all, new recruits mean new sales, and new sales mean more money.
We'd be out just even hanging out at McDonald's, at the play places, talking to parents.
At McDonald's?
Yeah.
Now, you graduated from Berkeley, went to medical school, making a very fine salary as a pediatrician, and yet you're in a mall and a McDonald's on a Saturday trying to sell this thing?
Yeah.
None of this surprises Bo Short. Not the commitment of time and money, not the emotion, as we saw at the rally we attended.
There's a man with tears. There are probably many people with tears. And not all of those tears are because they're committed to it. Many of those tears are because they have worked diligently and are not any closer. If this is not a legitimate business opportunity, then in reality, in your opinion, what is it?
I would use the word scam.
That's what I was thinking too.
Bo Short says when he and several other high-level distributors began to suspect the same thing, they confronted the company's managing director, Ken McDonald.
And I said, Ken, I believe that people are stealing money and you're letting it happen. And he didn't respond. And I remember looking at him a few minutes later and said, Ken, kick some of them out. Show people you're serious. And he looked at me and said, what would happen to the business?
Short says the company acknowledged it had been aware of the problem for decades. How could that be? Remember when we said Quickstar sounded a little like Amway, a company which drew the ire of the federal government several years back for making false promises to recruits? Well, it turns out Quickstar isn't just like Amway. It was Amway. Quickstar is just its new incarnation, with many of the same players. Eric Scheidler and the Macs began as Amway distributors, and many of those same high-level Quickstar distributors also began with Amway. So did Bo Short, who says he decided to walk away from the business and all the money that came with it. You were a poster boy for this outfit. You were on the company yacht. Are you now turning around and biting the hand that fed you?
I don't care if anyone thinks I'm biting anyone's hand that fed me. I'm telling the truth.
Quickstar declined to be interviewed on camera, but its managing director, Ken McDonald, says in a letter that Short's recollection of events is misleading, and he questioned Short's motivation for speaking out. Short does run a small direct marketing firm himself, and Quickstar considers him a potential competitor. Quickstar also says it prohibits its independent distributors from making exaggerated claims about income. As for the company's income, most of that comes from the sale of products, not from tapes and books and tickets to rallies. In its contracts, the company discloses that some distributors do make money from those sales, but that buying those materials is strictly voluntary. As for Bill Britt and some of the other top-level distributors we saw on stage, they also declined our request for an on-camera interview. But their lawyer told us in a letter that the income claims we heard are not promoted or endorsed by Britt and those other top distributors. He also wrote that buying the books and tapes is voluntary, and that how much they make from those sales is not available. So how much does a Quickstar distributor really make? Well, only about $1,400 per year. What's the source for that figure? It's Quickstar itself. You can find it in the fine print of the company's own registration materials. $1,400. That's $248,600 less than what our recruiter, Greg Fredericks, said we could make. We caught up with him at one of his recruitment meetings.
We're doing a story on Quickstar and Quickstar distributors. Okay. And these folks here work with me. Oh, great. We wanted to ask you a couple questions. Sure. Hey, I just want to make sure I heard you right.
First, we reminded him about the money he said we could make.
You're making more than $250,000.
How are you really making?
I'm not disclosing that.
$250,000. I'm working nearly 50. This is, you know,
But I'm not going to disclose you my information as far as my personal income.
But what he did let slip when he didn't know the camera was rolling was that one of the elite distributors we saw on stage is making most of his money from the motivation business.
Probably 3/4 of
And that's from holding seminars?
seminars, rallies, functions, motivational tools, tapes, books, speaking engagements, appearances.
But he didn't seem to remember saying that.
I don't know. I forgot what the tape goes. No, you're mentioning a number here, 3/4 of what his income is.
Well, you said it, not what I said.
Did I say that?
And that's about all he had to say.
Well, I got him up.
Later, we found out something else about Fredericks. Back in the mid-90s, he was arrested and charged with possession of crack cocaine and is still wanted by police to face charges in North Carolina. What about others involved in Quickstar? Both the FBI and the criminal division of the IRS are making separate inquiries into at least 2 top distributors not focused on in this report. In the meantime, hundreds of thousands of true believers are drawn into Quickstar every year, dazzled by the promise of the good life. But unless things change, says Bo Short, it's a broken promise that will leave broken hearts.
I think people are being hurt. Because understand, the majority of the people in that audience believe or desperately want to believe. And they sit there with their hearts in it. What about them?
Some former high-level distributors have filed a lawsuit against Quickstar in federal court, accusing the company of antitrust violations and conspiracy. Quickstar disputes the allegations and says it hopes the matter will be resolved through arbitration.
Here's the common sense. If you feel like they're not giving you enough, you walk away. If you have, but it's your choice to make. You choose behavior, you choose the consequences. Back in a moment. Finally this morning, do you have a problem with pizza? You hear the phone like say you'll get it in 30 minutes or less, but what if you realize that it could be too cold, too soggy, box is soggy, so-and-so? Well, then maybe you device coming your way. Here's Jane Pauley with a Dateline Discovery.
What could have happened? I ordered the pizza an hour ago. What if it's cold or has the wrong toppings?
You know the drill. You call up the pizza place and you're promised fresh hot pizza delivered to your doorstep in minutes.
How hard can it be?
Michael Waldman should know. A Russian immigrant with a PhD in engineering, he came to the United States in search of the American dream. Delivering pizza was one of his first jobs, and he quickly learned that delivering the perfect product was not easy as pie.
You cannot keep pizza hot and dry. Let's say 30 or 45 minutes of delivery. You just cannot do it.
But remember, Waldman is an engineer, and he knew there must be a scientific solution. In his spare time, he was starting a company called the Invention Machine, which develops software that helps inventors, well, invent. Waldman entered the problem into the computer. To keep the pizza hot, it's necessary to keep the box completely closed. But to keep the steam from making the pizza soggy, it's best to keep the box completely open. As a compromise, the typical box has air vents, but ultimately it doesn't always keep the pizza from getting cold or soggy. Waldman's solution? A revolutionary pizza box. The pie is raised on points to create space under it. This way, the box absorbs the steam and the layer of air between the crust and the cardboard insulates the pizza and keeps it warm and crispy. For pizza lovers, this may mean the end of soggy pizza. But then again, it still doesn't take all the pressure off the delivery man.
You probably got lost. Maybe they broke down. Say they drop it.
Waldman's box may soon be coming to your neighborhood. He says one of America's biggest pizza chains is interested, and they use up to 300 million boxes a year.
So pizza lovers out there, there's a solution for you. Now, here's what's coming up on the second half of the show. Are you interested in selling magazines or subscriptions? Don't do it until you see this Rob Stafford report about a group of teens under 16 working long hours and driving without a license. You'll meet this woman who says she didn't know about the case you're going to see in the second half. It's the case of selling magazines without a license. You'll also meet some kids who say they worked there, but knew about the accident so much, they decided to quit. Rob Stafford on quitting magazines while driving without a license. That's it for the first half. I'll see you later tonight for the second half of the show. For everyone here at YouTube, have a good day.